Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to an all-new reaction and review. Tonight, ladies and gentlemen, we are checking out a movie from the year 2000, and that movie is American Psycho. This one looks already like Christian Bale, Willem Dafoe. I mean, that's already, because it was only 2 weeks ago when I started doing this, when I did Mississippi Burning, did we already take a delve into Willem Dafoe. But Christian Bale, like, I mean, look, I know it's probably not the best image on the world, but he's a dreamboat, realistically speaking. I mean, I suppose you have to be if you go on later to play Bruce Wayne, Batman, and right now, I'm ready. That's just I don't want to waste any more time because I'm really looking forward to this. So the only real thing I kind of like do know to American Psycho just before we get started is that Christian Bale is a really rich like stockbroker, and he kills a lot of people. I think of those things anyway. I don't quite know if he's technically a stockbroker, but the time will certainly tell. So let's see if this... It looks a little bit scratched on the back, but it should play out just fine. So, it's time, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, you know what? It's been like one of those things where I've wanted to check this out for a while, so just pop that into the machine there. There we go, and close that up. So, without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, it is time to kick back, relax, and check out American Psycho. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that was American Psycho. Let me just hang on 1 second. Okay, we're recording. Okay, I just wanted to make sure we were on schedule. So anyway, ladies and gentlemen, that was American Psycho by Mary Turan, I believe, was the directress in question. There's a lot to unpack in this movie. So how about we start with the very... Actually, I'll tell you what, let's start with the ending. Because I think the ending is sort of... It's very reflective of just about everything else that happens in the movie. Even after Bateman admitted to killing well over, could be possibly 40 people, the second he goes to meet his lawyer in person, Harold completely refuses, with almost every more fibre in his body, to believe that Bateman could do it. He said Bateman was just completely not the person who would do it, so nobody could believe he could commit such horrendous crimes. And ironically, Jean was the only real one to have figured it out by the time, well, I say figured it out, she just opened up Bateman's diary just to find out that he just... all these drawings of... She's the only one who knows. She's the only one who realizes that Bateman more or less spared her life just because... I guess you could say Jean was the one who got off the best out of all of these characters. Paul Allen. First off, can we just talk about the iconic scene of Paul Allen, played by Jared Leto, getting his head splattered by an axe by Bateman? Now, I'm not necessarily the biggest Leto fan in the world. I will absolutely admit that right now. But because basically that's... Willem Dafoe is really only in the movie for like 3 scenes, and it's curious as well because I'm going to continue talking about the ending right now. Is that Bateman says that he closes the movie by saying this confession means absolutely nothing, no matter what he's done. Despite the fact that he's admitted to both Jean and his lawyer Harold that he's done all of these things. And they refuse to believe him, well, apart from Jean, who finds out. All of a sudden, Bateman is right. His punishment is endless, because all throughout the movie, you see him and this is why Bale, I think, was the perfect pick. He pulls these beautifully dark and cynical expressions because he has to put up with so much of these bullshit Wall Street nut jobs, literally 24/7. And ironically, I said Willem Dafoe because Willem Dafoe does a good job of pulling faces that just seem to say, "I would, if I could kill you, I would absolutely do it." Like, I called it subtle, but I think it's just half the way Willem Dafoe acts in general. He has a very ghoulish sort of animated expression, like this, and Bateman's is sort of a little bit more presentable because he's still, it's an illusion, it's a mask he's wearing. He is going around all over New York just presenting this image to, because he's constantly in like restaurants and talking to people one-on-one, and then some high-class escort chicks who he eventually murders copiously. He presents himself as just being sophisticated. He talks about music. He likes intellectual, consideration, and he hates arrogance and people who appear ignorant to such an extent that even in the very beginning of the movie, Bateman swears that he's just going to kill one barmaid for whatever reason, just because it's no longer a debit card slot to pay for his drinks. That's basically how the movie opens, by Bateman thoroughly admitting it's big. So almost you could say at the very beginning of the movie, he just unleashes just his confession already that he wants to kill these people because he feels because he shares nothing in common with all of them, and he cannot work out why he is alone, more or less, Bateman, in this movie. He is alone, surrounded by people who will never know him, and straight up will just, like Harold in the ending, will just straight up admit to Bateman that there's no way he could have done it, and he's got off scot-free. And then there's this great part in the ending where Bateman looks around the room and what are possibly his next victims, and he realizes that after all his confessions, after everything, he just looks and just realizes that it's suddenly become shameful. I am not reprimanded, I am not punished, I've just killed a lot of people, and I got away with it purely because people would never believe I could be able of doing something like this. Bateman at the end of the movie looks like a mixture of horrified and puzzled. He cannot believe that he's done this, and I think that and that's shocking enough in its own, because you could see in the part where he's actually calling Harold, where he's crying and he cannot, but he's taking a joy in it. He's taken relief in the fact that his torment, his cycle has come to an end by just admitting to Harold and even demonstrating to the whole world when he shot this woman and then a couple of policemen, some people working at the desk in a building. He just admits that it's finally over and now he's going to pay the price because he's lost all control and belief in it. This is who Patrick Bateman is now. He suddenly realized that this is his own one true calling in life, is to just slaughter people and to systematically lie and present himself as being very classy and sophisticated, because he's surrounded by people who do not know him. And in fact, I could argue in saying that a lot of people in this movie look the same by wearing suits or dresses, or everybody looks kind of identical in this movie, and Bateman stands out because he's allowed himself to stand out. He enjoys things that almost nobody else enjoys, and he cannot stand the fact that he is alone. He breaks up with his girlfriend almost towards the end of the movie and suddenly realizes that, well, I'm going to spare her because we have nothing in common, and to be fair, I've been cheating with her for the entire movie, so I may as well just let her down gently now, and just to make sure she doesn't get caught in the line of this, because why Bateman doesn't go out of his way to kill her first is a pretty good point. In fact, actually, let's talk about that very quickly for a second. The first of Patrick Bateman's victims is just this harmless black man just beside a building, and Bateman makes this little bit of a speech saying that this guy Al is an absolute worthless piece of shit for basically just being homeless, for losing his job and now having to live on the streets. And Bateman just gores and mocks him by saying that, just why don't you just get a job, Al? Just do that. And he hates this arrogance of people just groveling and spew. It's a little bit difficult to almost describe exactly what sort of people Bateman wants to be surrounded by, because he's uncomfortable just about being around everybody. He is, I reckon, almost at the beginning of the movie where Bateman is just in his apartment overlooking the garden, that he could just, if he could just sit, if he could just be by himself, I think that would suit him down to the ground. Because the second he like removes this teal sort of like wax mask over his face, his expression goes through very, very small changes, but to realizing that he has to go into the world, and because he has the job of being a vice president, he has a lot of responsibility on him, and it's just the pressure builds and builds until he realizes that he has to just let them go. And he also kills Al's dog as well, which I suppose it was just, maybe it wasn't enough for him to just kill Al very quickly, and he just go. And also some of the way he does this, like he basically gnaws through this escort, the woman he's cheating on, and also killing this girl named Chrissy by just dropping a chainsaw on her all the way down. It's gory and bloody in itself, but what's possibly a little bit more sinister than that is the fact that, well, it's alleged that Bateman has killed far more than we've actually seen, meaning that this cycle has probably been going on for maybe years at this point, beyond our knowledge. And again, it's very interesting as well that just higher members of society, that it makes you wonder if there really is such a thing as a class system, or in the way that American Psycho has presented itself. Are there just not good and bad people in almost all walks of life? For the rich and the poor, the greatest and the least? Surely that there are probably people like Peter Sutcliffe in the ends of the aristocracy of the billionaires. Maybe there really is people like that up there as they are in the working class sort of line, and all over the world. But it's just because, again, like I said, Bateman, maybe no one would believe him, and why would anybody believe him? He's such a popular, very, very suave guy. But, oh my god, just... I love the fact that just, again, everybody brushes this off. Bateman is not reprimanded, he's not scoffed at, he's not looked down upon. He's in a strong position now because he's now surpassed the fact that he's got away with the worst crime imaginable and nobody cares whatsoever. And now he's going to live with the fact that he's done this, and not so much that he's going to pay the price for it, but the fact that all over everyone is now his enemy, because their sense of outlook is everything is now no longer what Bateman thought it was. Everybody just does not care. Bateman's one crying salvation and why he killed all those people is because he was surrounded by people who looked like they did not care, and who were trying to mock his character by suggesting that they cared more than he did. And now Bateman is surrounded by people, and goodness knows what he was going to do. He looked like he was about to just slaughter every last person. It's fascinating if it wasn't for the fact that if there was a problem to this, I would say that maybe it would have helped Bateman a lot, because we follow basically Bateman is almost in every scene in this movie. And it's funny enough, it's fortunate enough that they had to have Christian Bale to pull off these wild expressions, from disgust to sick enjoyment to just having his, it's almost like the tips of his mouth touch his ears. He has to really go out of his way to present himself as a lot of things as one. He enjoys the pain that he wants to inflict upon others. Now there are literally no more boundaries. There are no more barriers because he's done just about everything now. So, what now? Where is there else to go? What on earth is he supposed to do to make people believe that he could do something like that? Maybe aside from maybe returning a few videotapes or something, I don't know. Now, there is another sort of like thing I kind of wanted to mention just before we go, because it's something that I didn't necessarily think was that important before we began, because there wasn't really, I couldn't think of much else to talk about it, because the cinematography is really good, because it just the way it captures, like, well, actually that's the point. New York City. Now, New York City has been in dozens of films over the years. That's a given. But I couldn't help but notice, and maybe it was just because it was shot in the year 2000, but New York looks massive in this movie. Bateman or Defoe or Leto or goodness knows, just everybody is dwarfed by the architecture. They are walking in the very on the streets of the very society that they are now at the top of the. They are now at the top of the mountain, you might say. They are right up there, and yet curiously enough, they are. Well, I suppose in terms of Bateman, he feels himself no better off to what he's done than, like I said, the lowest ends of the working class who go on rampages just like Bateman did. So what's the difference really? Probably just because because even if it did end up going to court, or maybe there was some way that Bateman could have done this, but then again, there wasn't really any evidence. Bateman thoroughly made a confession to Harold, but Harold just chose to just brush it off. There was nothing Bateman could do to convince anyone otherwise about what he'd done, and he's gonna live with this. He's gonna live with the fact that he's done all of these things and he's never going to be punished. And his punishment is the fact that he is all alone in this world. He's all alone, surrounded by people who know absolutely nothing about him, who do not like the things he's liked. It's almost like he doesn't have a true friend in the world, and now everyone is his enemy. I mean, there's something very tragic about that, but if it wasn't for the fact that, well, Bateman, like I said, Bateman went through everything he had to try and turn himself in, but nobody cared. That's the thing. Nobody cared. In many ways, Bateman is the product of society of people who don't care, who will systematically lie, cheat, steal, and somehow people think he's golden for this. I might even want to put this on again. I feel like I want to put this on again. Just the best parts of this movie are just, first off, Bale's acting will just, anytime he's on screen, he always looks different. He always looks ready. He looks like he is about to steal every part of the scene he's in. And again, he's almost always on screen in this movie. So if you like that, then you're not going to be disappointed. And finally, I'll just say this, is that I know this is meant to be based on a novel by a man called from Ellis, so I know his last name was meant to be Ellis, but I'm definitely wanted to check that out now, because I want to know if there's meant to be any real ending, or whether or not it just ends like that, with Bateman just looking into the world, realizing that this may be his own punishment at all, that nothing has been accomplished. He's still in the same position, and other people have suffered for this, and he's going to continue causing other people to suffer. And so, with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, I hope all of you at home have enjoyed American Psycho yourselves. Please make sure to leave, this my own reaction to American Psycho. Please leave your thoughts and comments in the comment section down below. Let me know what you guys thought of the movie American Psycho for yourselves. And I hope to see all of you guys again in the next reaction video. Take care. Bye-bye for now.